Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 17, 2024 meeting of the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission meeting. As we begin our meeting tonight, I do like to read this, especially when we have a few members absent, which we do tonight. And it is in regards to a quorum. The presence of 5 members of the commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. Chairperson may at his or her discretion wait up to 30 minutes after the scheduled meeting time for a quorum to be present. In the event that a member is required to leave a meeting prior to adjournment and the departure causes a loss of quorum, no further official action may be taken until a quorum is restored other than an adjournment. A majority vote of those commissioners present, and in no case less than 4 affirmative votes shall be required to decide any item of business requiring action by the commission. Particularly that final sentence of 4 affirmative votes shall be required to decide any item of business requiring action is the most highlighted item on there. Do want to make one quick announcement as as we begin our meeting tonight. Any items that are recommended positive or negative out of this body that should move on to our Board of Commissioners. The next scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting was to be November 11th. However, there is not a Board of Commissioners meeting due to Veterans Day being November 11th. And so if you want to continue to follow an item through the Board of Commissioners as it leaves Planning Commission, these items that we will hear tonight at Planning Commission will be heard by the Board of Commissioners on November 25th. So any item that moves forward back to our Board of Commissioners for its final vote will be heard on the November 25th board meeting. So just want to let everybody know that. Also, a quick update from our last Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission did appoint Vice Chairman Rast as our member upon TDOT committee, I guess. And so you've got, a city meeting on that. So Commissioner Rast has got a quick update for us here. Commissioner Rast?
Not so much of an update. Right now, just an explanation of it. If you haven't seen it on Facebook, there is a website called Safe Streets Mount Juliet. It's a site where we're looking for public input on safety at intersections, sidewalks, bike lanes. Make your opinion known. At this point, the survey has not received a ton of responses, but the more we get, the more we can focus in on improvements within the city. That survey will be used to develop a plan, and then that plan will be used to develop grant applications, and for which we can get some of these improvements paid for. Shane?
Please.
I was going to have Todd speak on this, but Director White did want to mention that anybody here tonight can scan the QR code over here to the left, complete the survey, and spread the word.
Oh, I didn't see it over there. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it in.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a QR code. It's safe. It's been checked. But just scan that. The survey takes you a minute or two to go through it, and it just provides the input that the team needs to evaluate improvements in the city.
Wonderful. Thank you for doing that for us.
Yep.
Next item up on our agenda will be to set our agenda. I do have a few changes that I would like to request of the Planning Commission. That is to move items 7A, 7B, 7C, and 7D. 7A is to review the final plat for the revision of lots 23 and 24 of Maple Crossing Phase 1, located 218 Argia Drive, if I said that properly. Item 7B is to review the final plat for Golden Gateway, lots 2 and 5, located 1201 Rutland Drive. Item 7C, review the final plat for Walton's Grove, Phase 7A, located at Kilkenny Way. Item 7D is to review the final plat for the MWAM subdivision, located at 9911 Central Pike. Those items going upon the consent agenda, as well as item 10A and 10B. Item 10A is to review the rezone recommendation from R1 to C3 for 4507 and 4511 Central Pike to the Wilson County Planning. Item 10B is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, and it is to review the rezone request from RS40 to Commercial Neighborhood Services, CNS, for the 434 Nautival. 7A, 7B, 7C, 7D, 10A, and 10B are being recommended to move up to the consent agenda. Any objection to us making that move here tonight?
Got a couple
Please,
questions.
please.
So on 7A, I was looking and trying to just wrap my head around why are we removing the sidewalk in front of those? What connectivity is established? Is there a sidewalk on parcel 25 and 22? How does that look?
So they showed a sidewalk coming across the corner of the lots. When we went back at the request of the developer on removing that, there was no record of an approval of that sidewalk to begin with. So they defaulted back to what was previously approved, which is a sidewalk between the lots. And I don't have a drawing with me, but there is connectivity between the lots with sidewalks. It's just in a different alignment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any objection to moving to the consent? Perfect. We will move those to the consent agenda. Any additional changes, amendments, adjustments? Seeing none, we will set the agenda as stated. Next item up on our agenda will be our staff reports. Ms. Johnson, would you like to lead us off?
Thank you. I just wanted to let you all know and the community know that the planning and zoning department has now moved from City Hall downstairs to the old Public Works building at 71 East Hill Street. So if y'all looking for us, a couple more steps up the street. We're just on the other side of the fire hall. Love for y'all to come by and see our new digs. We're still in the process of trying to get everything settled in, but just wanted to let everybody know where to find us.
Very well. Thank you. John, anything you wish to share?
No, thanks.
Wonderful. Shane?
Commissioner Ash spoke about Safe Streets for All. We don't have any further comments. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Todd, anything on the roads? Good to know.
No, sir.
All right. Wonderful. That being said, we will move forward with our citizen comments. The public is welcome and encouraged to make public comment about any item on our agenda. There will be 2 opportunities for comments. You may speak now, or you may speak when the item is presented to the Planning Commission. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, and anyone that wishes to address the Planning Commission is welcome to do so. And please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, move on with our next agenda item, and that is the minutes approval. Item 5A is to review and adopt the minutes from the September 19th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Any changes, typos, adjustments?
Yeah, one adjustment on 7A. Says the motion carried by the following vote, and there is no record of that vote. It was a unanimous vote to put Vice Chairman Rast on that commission. So if we could just update that to know that there was a vote. That's all I've got.
Very well. Good catch. Any further changes? With that being said, looking for a recommendation regards this item on our agenda or motion. It's a motion. In a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. All right. Next item up is our consent agenda. We'll begin with item 6A, the development letter of credit number S203016 in the amount of $79,687.53 for Carriage Trail Phase 3 can be released. Item 6B, review and adopt the 2025 Annual Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals submittal calendars. Item 6C, review the site plan for the Mount Juliet Fire Station number 3, located at 4370 Old Lebanon Dirt Road. Item 6D, review the site plan for the Bender's Ferry subdivision amenities located at 771 Bender's Ferry Road. Item 6E, review the site plan for Texas Roadhouse located at 145 Bear Crossing. Item 6F, review the final plat for the Polecat Road project, Crabtree, located at 87 Polecat Road. Item 6G, review the final plat for the Polecat Road project, Stall, located at 1706 Mays Chapel Road. Item 6H, review the final plat for the Polecat Road project, Villanove, located at 1630 Mays Chapel Road. Item 7A, review the final plat for the revision of lots 23 and 24, Maple Crossing, Phase 1, located at 218 Argia Drive. Item 7B, review the final plat for Golden Gateway, lots 2 and 5, located at 1201 Rutland Drive. Item 7C, review the final plat for Walton's Grove, Phase 7A, located at Kilkenny Way. Item 7D, review the final plat for the MWAM subdivision, located at 9911 Central Pike. Item 10A, which is a recommendation item back to the Wilson County Planning Commission, and that is to review the rezone recommendation from R1 to C3 for 4507 and 4511 Central Pike to the Wilson County Planning. Item 10B, which is a recommendation item back to the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners, and that is to review the rezone request from RS40 to Commercial Neighborhood Services, CNS, for 434 Nottable Road. Begin with planning. Jill, John, anything on these?
I would just say recommend approval or positive recommendations or negative in the case of the Wilson County one per the staff report comments and with any of the conditions listed. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Shane, anything from Public Works?
Same things planning.
Very well. Questions, comments from the commission, please.
Got a couple. So starting with 6B. So I know that the June meeting falls on a federal holiday. That's kind of in the middle of the year. Are staff good with not meeting that month at all? I mean, I wouldn't object to meeting a week early if we need to. I just don't want to push everything July down to have higher packed weeks because of us not meeting in June. Okay.
We'll deal with it.
Okay, cool. And then fire department, I was just curious the amount of classrooms that was blank on the memo.
I apologize. We were in the process of trying to get that. They do have one large classroom that can be subdivided into 3 smaller class spaces. So my apology for not getting that in there. It just didn't make it by press time.
No worries. Okay. And that's all the questions I've got.
Any additional questions or comments? I actually have a few myself. Just wanted to add, I think it would be a nice touch. Really enjoyed item 6C, which is our new fire station number 3, which is impressive in itself. Just like to recommend an irrigation system for the yard front out there, especially being close to a residential area over there. Question on 6D, this is the Bender's Ferry subdivision. One of the things that kind of drives me crazy when we see these new subdivisions is the mail kiosk being located within the amenities themselves and taking up parking that should be for the amenities and not for mail kiosk. Do we know if there's any opportunity for us to move that somewhere else, or has that been discussed, or was a mail kiosk always there when we approved it? Because we got a lot of houses there and 3 parking places for a lot of houses.
I believe the intent was for it to be there due to the elevations, because that's a reason also too that we had some issues with where the playground location is that's actually across the street. That was pretty much the only feasible location for the mail kiosk in that area. There's just a lot of challenges with the elevations in the area and everything. So that's the most suitable at this time. It's not the most preferred on our part, but the most suitable for the location. They are providing 28 parking spaces as well. So we feel like it's enough there for the use and everything, since they are going to have like a split amenity center across the road as well.
Wonderful. Couple more. Let me make sure of that. I think I've answered that. Answers all mine. All right, this time we'll call for citizen comments in regards to any item on our consent agenda. Anyone wishing to make comments, welcome and encouraged to do so. And please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments this time, I do want to say one thing real quick, because this was provided to us here today. We always, each of your planning commission members does have a City of Mount Juliet email in which we can receive communication, but oftentimes, like we show up today, we receive communication that's provided to staff back to us. This is from 4506 Central Pike in regards to their concerns on the item 10A, which is the recommendation item back to the Wilson County Planning. Should everything go per staff's request, that will be a negative recommendation. So it does follow suit with that individual's letter that provided a copy to each one of us to read prior to tonight's meeting. So just wanted to make quick mention of that. We always are grateful and appreciate that communication, whether or not it comes to us via email, whether or not it comes to us tonight or via staff. However, we are of you and for you. So just wanted to make quick mention of that. Before I ask for a motion in regards to the items on our consent agenda, I do need to close the consent agenda in order to open a public hearing. Bear with me. We have several items that need the public hearing. Public hearing is in regards to item 6F, review the final plat for the Polecat Road project, Crabtree, located at 87 Polecat Road. Item 6G, review the final plat for the Polecat Road project, Stall, located at 1706 Mays Chapel Road. Item 6H, review the final plat for the Polecat Road project, Villanova, located at 1630 Mays Chapel Road. Item 7A, review the final plat for the revision of lots 23 and 24 of Maple Crossing Phase 1, located at 218 Argea Drive. Item 7B, review the final plat for Golden Gateway, lots 2 and 5, located at 1201 Rutland Drive. Item 7C, review the final plat for Walton's Grove, Phase 7A, located on Kilkenny Way. Item 7D, review the final plat for the MWAM subdivision, located at 9911 Central Pike. Anyone wishing to make comment about any of those items during the public hearing? Welcome and encouraged to do so. And please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we'll reopen the Planning Commission meeting, and at which time I'm looking for a motion in regards to the items on our consent agenda. It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Against? Abstentions? That is a approval.
And that proxy has the negative recommendation.
It does. Yes. Yes, that is correct. Commissioner Rast did confirm that underneath that, that staff's recommendation on that item 10A, 4507, 4511 Central Pike to Wilson County Planning is as a negative recommendation, correct? Very well. Thank you. Our next item up, and question for staff and planning as well. Any objection to hearing 8A and 9A together? Any objection? Would staff be okay with that? Wonderful. We will hear item 8A and 9A together. Item 8A is to review the final master development plan for Bradshaw Farms Phase 4, located off Veneer Road and Beckwith Road. Item 9A is to review the preliminary plat for Bradshaw Farms Phase 4, located at Veneer Road and Beckwith Road. Here with planning, John.
Thank you. This probably could have gone on consent too. This FMDP and preliminary plat, the FMDP is compliant with the approved PMDP. Preliminary plat looks good. It's been a while. It's a big project, so I left it off. Basically what they're doing here is this is 4A and 4B. In Bradshaw Farms, this is the RM8 part, so it's the townhomes. It's 147 age restricted units. It's villa and cottages, which are the attached product in there. I've listed the waivers that were approved with the PMDP in here, and I've gone through and looked to make sure all of them are still carrying forward and being adhered to. Looks good. Like I said, the final master development plan and the preliminary plat are both compliant with the PMDP, and it all looks pretty good. So we are recommending approval of both of those items with the conditions listed. Thank you.
Thank you. Shane, Public Works?
Staff recommends approval with our recommendations.
Very well. Questions, comments from the commission? Commissioner George?
So notice in here, the location of pavilion's not specified. Have we gotten specification on that location yet, or?
What,
Pavilion, it says, pavilion details provided, but the location of the pavilion is
Oh.
not specified.
not yet, no.
Okay. Any concerns with not having that location when we're approving final master plan?
No, I suspect it'll go in that open space area to the south, like at the
Okay.
south edge there, but that, or, you know, it may go in the right of way in those park areas in between the roads there. It's going to go in one of those areas. So, and if it's just a pavilion, we don't even require a site plan or
Okay.
anything for that. So it can be addressed later.
Also, I'm going to stick with what I've done since I've gotten up here. I've never been in favor of age-restricted housing. I don't think it's something that we as a city need to start investing in. We had a previous commissioner up here that brought a lot of good facts in terms of the turnover rate and the amount of emergency services calls to these. So it's not something I'm going to be able to support. That's all I've got.
Further questions, comments from the commission? Just want to add one comment to both of these, trying to be consistent as we move forward, just to ensure that, and this one appears to be good with that, but ensure that we don't have any erosion control measures that lie within designated buffers. And the erosion control to be on the property and outside of the designated buffers. Important again on this one. That being said, we'll ask for citizen comments in regards to these items on the agenda. Any citizens wishing to make comment are welcome and encouraged to do so. Come to the microphone and name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion in regards to these items on our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve with recommendations.
It's a motion. And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath item 11A. It is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Is to review the annexation and plan of services for Rosemont located at 1826 Bender's Ferry Road. Jill.
I'll go ahead and give you a little information on this because it also corresponds with 11B for the PMDP that we have. This is another subdivision that is being proposed currently in the county on Bender's Ferry. It's a 26-lot single-family subdivision on 19.64 acres. It's currently going to sit north of Mays Chapel, Liberty Chapel Road. It will be on the east side of Bender's Ferry. It is currently in our UGB. It's just one parcel of land. The entrance to the subdivision is proposed to be southeast of Gay Winds Drive. There is no land use amendment needed because it currently is medium density residential, and that's what is being proposed, is they are requesting RS 30 as their zoning. It's currently zoned as Wilson County Agricultural, and they are requesting the RS 30, which is medium density. The currently density on the project is 1.32 units per acre. The minimum lot size is 15,000 square foot with an average lot size of 21,000 square feet. They're going to have 25% open space, which is approximately 5.04 acres. They're only proposing for an amenity as a pergola. Since this is going to be a very small subdivision, they don't have a lot of amenities or any amenities proposed other than the pergola. They do have a few waivers and variances requested, mainly in bulk standards, which we can go over those as well. And they are proposing 5-foot sidewalks throughout the entirety of the subdivision, also along the frontage of Bender's Ferry. So, but in regards to the annexation, staff does support the annexation into the city and makes a positive recommendation for that.
Shane, Public Works?
We're just talking about the annexation at this point, correct?
Just the annexation at this
Oh,
point. Yes,
We
sir.
have no comments.
Very well. Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? Please.
This, let's see, under the comments of the, let's see, number 12, staff requests this development be served by private roads. If the development prefers public streets, they shall connect to the adjacent Traymore subdivision and by two-way streets. So staff is going to coordinate that alignment as the development progresses. Is that going to be an issue with anybody else in that area if it becomes a two-way street. And I was thinking if it's a private road and the HOA has to provide the expense for that, for a private road.
Todd, because he can answer better to that, but the HOA would take on the responsibility for the maintenance of those roads.
So if I were buying a lot in that area, which would be the most advantageous for me as a potential homeowner, to have a private road or an extension?
There's pros and cons to both. I would recommend we table that to when we're talking about the
Next.
PMDP.
Oh.
At this point, we are just on the annexation.
Okay, just okay, jumping ahead.
Wonderful. Any further questions? All right, this time we'll call for citizen comments. Name and address for the record.
I'm Sheree Akers with Barge Design, and we represent the applicant. First, I just wanted to request, if possible, if we can hear both items together, if that's possible, so that we vote together on both items, one after another. That's base. And then, do you want me to save my comments for getting to the master plan? I know you deferred to her to wait.
What would be the will of the commission, Bob? What would be the will of staff, really?
It doesn't matter to us, but I'm fine with hearing both at the same time.
Lean, our city attorney, or since we've tabled this item, are we able to amend what we're hearing and add them together?
I would just continue hearing the annexation and then move on.
Very well. Perfect. All right, so we're still on the annexation and plan of services. And citizen comments remain open. Please, name and address for the record.
Buddy Sanford, and I live at 1600 Benders Ferry Road. I guess my question is, what's going to be in the planning to handle the traffic? We already got 3 subdivisions going in now. And at the end of Benders Ferry, you can't hardly get out in the mornings. I mean, what's going to be done to help alleviate this problem with all this extra development going in?
Sure, great question. Shane, do you want to discuss the commitments from the other subdivisions?
So the subdivision that's currently under construction north of Joy Church, the Bender's Cove development, it just within the last couple of weeks had their offsite and roadway improvements approved by our staff, which will address the intersection at Bender's Ferry and Golden Bear. No, Bender's Ferry and Lebanon Road. Sorry. The Traymore development, which is still under review, is also committed to widening Bender's Ferry per the county regulations. They're not having to annex the road. So and I'll let Todd speak about capacity, but we feel as though those improvements should be fine with the small subdivision.
Will you, just so he makes sure he knows, and I know as well, but what are the improvements that we're putting upon them that will happen on Bender's Ferry right there? Or Todd, do you
I'll
want
have
to
Todd
speak on
speak to
that,
that.
please? Yeah.
Technically speaking, we can't require anything on Bender's Ferry as it's not our road. However, the county road commission is going to require.
Yeah. Previous for Meritage and.
They're widening from Route 70 all the way up to Mays Chapel, I believe, to a 3-lane cross section to match our minor collector, as well as adding a 10-foot wide shared use path on the west side. And then Traymore picks up that widening, but that will be to county standards as opposed to city standards.
Very well. So to help you a little bit with what's being done out there, and those are commitments on the existing neighborhoods that you're referencing, not necessarily this project. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess so. I got one other question too. What about Lebanon Road? I guess this may not fall under y'all's planning or anything like that as far as the widening of Lebanon Road. between, I guess, Glen Park all the way out to 109? Is there any
Yeah.
plans for
Absolutely.
something like that?
Mr. Todd would like to tell you that answer as well.
Unfortunately, that widening is not in TDOT's current 10-year plan, despite the city's best efforts.
Why would it not be? Or what is the holdup on it? I
It'd
guess.
be to state route. So it's underneath state control. I believe the city has begun to acquire right of way.
There was money in the last budget to purchase some right of way, but even with that, it was never added to the 10-year plan by TDOT.
So state is who we need to call. State representatives, congressmen, those kind of folks there, or TDOT representatives are in control of the funding for that project.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right.
Any additional citizen comments? Seeing no additional citizen comments this time, I would be looking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda, which is the annexation and plan of services. I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation, subject to the approval of the preliminary master development plan. So, subject to the approval. Yep. It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising their hand. Against? Yeah, against? Very well. So the motion fails, so that is disapproved.
I'm abstaining.
You abstain?
Abstain on it.
2 in affirmative, 3 in negative, 1 abstention.
One abstention, so that is a failure.
Yep.
That still constitutes a failure, correct?
We have 4 votes in favor, since we've got 2 missing, 3 missing, actually.
I'm sorry, I missed the vote.
You had, yeah, no. Sorry, we do need to conduct the public hearing as well. We did not conduct the public hearing. Yeah. No, I needed to conduct that, so do we need to reframe the vote or hear the public hearing? Or what would, need to hear the public hearing and
Yes.
hold the recommendation
Yes,
and then take a revote?
let's hold the public hearing and then I missed the vote, so I'm not even sure what happened. What was the vote?
2, 4, 3 against, 1 abstention.
2, 4, 3 against. It would be a failure.
It'd be a failure. Yeah, perfect.
Do the public
Public
hearing
hearing.
and then you can do the revote.
Very well. We'll be closing planning commission meeting in order to open a public hearing. Public hearing is in regards to a recommendation item, which is item 11A on our agenda. It's to review the annexation and plan of services for Rosemont located 1826 Bender's Ferry Road. Anyone wishing to make comment during the public hearing is welcome and encouraged to do so. Come to the microphone, name and address for the record. Name and address for the record. Name and address for the record.
3 acres with Barge Design Solutions, 615 3rd Avenue, Nashville. I just wanted to figure out, so there was the votes, there was 3 against for annexation. Is
Right
that-
now, we're in a public hearing.
Okay. All right, well, we agree with staff's recommendation for annexation. We would like to be annexed into the city, obviously, to propose this 26-unit, single-family subdivision. It's in compliance with your land use code. We're adjacent to other property within the city, and it is a zoning request that would be compatible with your future land use. And it's a single-family subdivision.
Thank you. Any additional citizen comments during the public hearing? This time we will close our public hearing, reopen the planning commission meeting. And Ms. Burnett, is that previous vote still active? Or do we need to take a new
Take the
vote?
vote again.
I make a motion for a positive recommendation subject to the approval of the preliminary master development plan. It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a negative recommendation. Very well. With that being said, Ms. Burnett, would we still be appropriate to hear the item 11B, which is the preliminary master development plan on the same project? Because it did not get a recommendation to, but it still could move forward to the Board of Commissioners. Moves forward to the Board of Commissioners, positive or negative, so we do need to hear it, right?
Yes.
That is, yeah, it's not like a land use where it would need a sponsor.
If we didn't annex it, then it won't move on to the Board of Commissioners.
that's-
'Cause it's not gonna be
Yeah.
in the city. They gotta go through the county now.
That's correct. Yes, that's, John is correct.
Hear it or not?
No.
So what would be,
If we're not annexing it, then it's not,
The
the
city has no
city's-
control
no
over what
control.
happens there because we didn't annex it.
that's correct.
but as a recommendation item,
To Wilson County, not to the city.
I believe you would want to request the developer to defer your PUD because like they said, the property's in the county to begin with. We didn't annex it.
that
Unless
is
it goes back to, I don't know if the BOC has to sponsor it to come back.
I know they have to sponsor a land use plan, but I thought that everything else still moves forward to the BOC, positive or negative recommended, outside of the land use plan. That's been my understanding.
You're right that the land use,
Land
yes,
use,
it can be sponsored by a commissioner.
the
to
land
move
use would,
forward.
but this is not a land use. So this
Right,
is
the
just a
annexation
zoning.
would
So
move.
it just moves forward as a negative, which would necessitate us to hear the preliminary master development. I know all this change in legal law. I know. Yeah, but I think that only has to do with the land use plan and not
not a
just a straight
recommendation?
annexation and rezone. At least that had been my understanding. See what I mean?
So
Think-
this annex, this negative
It just
recommendation.
goes
is- it
forward,
goes
negative,
forward.
negative.
So
Yeah.
then if it goes forward, regardless of our decision, then I feel like we have to.
Well,
We
BOC
have
could,
to read the
yeah,
preliminary
That's
because
right.
we're gonna give a recommendation regardless. Now,
'Cause-
the BOC could completely 180 it,
that's right.
but I mean, ultimately, I think we still have to do our recommendation.
Yeah.
So it'd be my humble, non-legal opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I believe that we need to hear it as well.
Because these are just recommendations. So land use
Yeah.
would kill it effectively unless a BOC member, but this is, yeah.
Because the BOC hears it positive or negative.
Because it's a recommendation item, what's the harm of hearing it? If it's a negative recommendation for both or a negative and positive, it's still a recommendation item.
Let me ask representation for this.
Yeah, I
Was,
don't-
we're figuring out the appropriate course of action. Is it with that annexation and rezone vote, would it be your intent to request a deferral on the preliminary, or would it be your request for it to be heard, should it be allowed to be heard?
Our request would be for it to be allowed to be heard and move on to the BOC.
Very well, thank you.
I would like, I would want, I know you're not obligated to, but if there's reason for the denial of the annexation, it would be good to understand that.
Sure.
What the concerns are.
The annexation is going to move on to the BOC, just with a negative recommendation.
Right.
So we can still hear the PUD.
Perfect. That's what, perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And thank you all for your patience that are here tonight. Yeah, changes in law make interesting comments up here. All right. Our next item up on our agenda is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is to review the preliminary master development plan PUD, including a rezone from RS 40 to RS 30 PUD for Rosemont, located 1826 Bender's Ferry Road. Jill.
Oops, sorry. I'll be happy to recap everything for you. But again, this is just the preliminary master development plan with the rezone for the plan unit development on this 26 lot, single family subdivision on Bender's Ferry Road. There are a few waivers and conditions that they have asked within the staff report that with some of the information we noted earlier. They do have access street and collectors with front load garages. staff supports that. A cul-de-sac to allow 26 lots in lieu of a 14 lot maximum. Staff does support that. We also support the bulk standard recommendations of moving some of their setbacks. They're very minimal in nature, so we do support those. Also along, they are requesting an elevation a waiver with some of the facades being 50% brick and stone and the remainder being 50% secondary materials. Staff does support that, provided the secondary materials are hardy plank or masonry, board, and batten. And then there's also another waiver to request to disturb slopes of more than 20%, and we'll defer that to Public Works. But provided that the everything is met here, staff did originally recommend a positive recommendation to the Board of Commissioners with the conditions that we provided within the staff report, should the Planning Commission choose to do so.
John, anything additional you wish to add? Very well. Shane, Public Works.
I want to discuss site and utilities and defer roadway to Todd, but staff does just support variance number 5 to disturb steep slopes greater than 20% in a cut condition only, with the caveat that there are no steep slopes in the building envelopes. This PUD, we're not going to permit on-site grinder systems, so everything will have to be the gravity or pump station. In this case, will be gravity flow to provide wastewater service. One transportation comment I will hit, and I believe Todd talked about it earlier. The frontage along this property of Bender's Ferry is within the Wilson County Road Commission jurisdiction, and any improvements are subject to the Road Commission, and we would request the developer provide us comments and improvements that the commission would recommend that the development do. I also included a comment, which is number 9 in our staff report, about karsts that are found on site and remediation measures as the development would progress. And with that, I believe everything else will be roadways, so I'll defer to Todd.
Very well. Todd, please.
Yeah, thank you. To start, just the size of this development at 26 units, it did not warrant a MTA or a TIS or any form of traffic studies based on the expected trips generated. I did look at the crashes in front of the site, but with this section of Bender's Ferry being largely residential in nature, there was very few turning movements and therefore very few crashes. The crashes that were there were roadway departures, which are incredibly common in routes like this, unfortunately. As far as the internal roads, the roads that may or may not become city roads, staff recommends the road in the configuration shown here be private. The reason behind that is we have at a BOC level approved the Traymore development with a connection to this parcel. For a road to become a city street, in my opinion, it should serve everyone in the city of Mount Juliet. Choosing not to connect does not fulfill that obligation, in my opinion. So I would recommend that this street be private. That does allow them to put a gate on the street if they so choose, but it would be the HOA's responsibility. If the street were to connect, it would have to meet access street standards, and the central median islands and the one-way flow would all have to be reconfigured and really would not be supported, which goes back to the variance about having front-loading driveways on an access street. In my limited experience with the city so far, I have not seen us grant that variance straight up. I supported that variance as this was one-way flow. We have done access streets on one side of the street before, which this would then be because it's a one-way street. It's just a large loop. They will need variances in this configuration for exceeding cul-de-sac length and unit count, but I believe they asked for the unit count. So because it's a one-way street and it loops back around, they exceed their 700 feet maximum cul-de-sac length. And lastly, we did request a site distance measurement based on the horizontal geometry of Bender's Ferry Road. It's anticipated to meet site distance requirements. However, no vertical profile was provided, but that can be taken care of at construction drawings or FMDP.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the commission? Very well. There we go. Let's go ahead and ask for representation to the project and name and address for the record.
Nashville, Tennessee. We don't have any issue with number 12. We are going to make it a private road and it will not be a public road. And we're in agreement with all the other conditions.
Very well. Thank you. Got a question back for Shane. You mentioned on Public Works comment item number 6, no on-site grinder system or step systems will be allowed. So basically with the typo of this and no on-site grinder, there's no way to service sewer in there because I think this property kind of does that. So fully can't gravity, right?
They're doing pump station. Check. They're proposing a pump station.
They are proposing a
Yes.
pump station to be built in this.
Yeah, they're serving it with gravity and then pumping it back out. Because the Traymore development will be providing sewer from their development down to tie in at the Bender's Meritage development. So
Very well. So I want to make a couple comments because I supported and made the recommendation back for this to come into the city. However, I'm not as big of a fan as it comes over to preliminary plat. My desire is eventually it lies within our UGB, and I like to support because the vision does call for that to eventually be within city limits. Right now, we're broken in between a major subdivision right now. Gentleman's concerns, many other people on Bender's Ferry with the current traffic. Things do need to catch up. We've got measures in place that are going to come help Bender's Ferry. I'm on Bender's Ferry a lot. I mean, a lot. I've got multiple handfuls of friends off Bender's Ferry. I don't think it's wise of us because Bender's Ferry is also littered with large tracks. I think that if this comes through, every large track bouncing upon as you go down the road becomes another private road, another 16 lots, another 26 lots, another 3 lots, another 7 lots, another that. I don't believe, from my understanding, that that's good planning. Connectivity is good planning. Transportation is good planning. Getting roads in and out is good planning. As Todd said over here, it's getting everybody in and out. Said in a meeting with our fire marshal and our fire chief, whereas tonight's agenda supports fire station number 3. Fire station number 3 doesn't give them good proximity even to this neighborhood. In talking to our fire chief about his ability to service down Bender's Ferry to this point, and the next subdivision up, which I believe will be a Beezer subdivision, Pulte, or whoever it is across from Gay Winds right there, they make sense. And utilities are getting there, so we're going to begin to get spot requests, spot zoning, spot annexation all the way through. And I don't know that one of the things that I was going to bring up for discussion at the end is to visit our transportation plan, particularly in these areas that are growing with these remainder parcel of our land, to make sure that we are responsible in what we've done out here and what we're continuing to do, because the transportation plan, much like the land use plan, is kind of a guide and a map right there. So whereas I supported this, and it's a very creative design. A couple things that I don't support. I don't like a neighborhood with a private road, not having zero amenities. This body has amenities in our neighborhoods. It's kind of a standard that we've set forth out here. It's a standard that we've set forth with all of our facade. So we got variances on facade. We got variance in setbacks. The multitude of variances. You got slope variances out here. I think with the multitude of variances, our ability to get back here and properly service this, a design that shows zero connectivity to some major projects. This property has got a right adjacent to it, already has a property for sale. So we're going to see it next month, and then we're going to approve this, and then we're going to have no connectivity. I mean, I struggle to find my way through that. So that is my individual comment towards that.
Let me just echo what the chairman said. I mean, that took the words out of my mouth. I completely agree. We've seen projects here where we've got really nice amenities and we're willing to grant some variances on building materials. And I'm fine with that because we've got those amenities that balance that out in my head. But what I see before me is 26 houses that have no connectivity but to a major busy road, no amenities, and we're cutting into the quality of the building design. It's getting crazy. Like, I understand one or the other, but I can't in good conscience sit up here and support something that gives no amenities for these 26 houses, and we're giving variances on design waivers. It just, I mean, I don't want to be dramatic here, but this is probably one of the worst projects I've seen since I've been up here in a year and a half in terms of what we're seeing to give the people of Mount Juliet. I mean, people come to Mount Juliet because of the schools, because of the great community, but they're going to pay in these housing markets, who knows, a good chunk of money, and they're not going to have a single amenity, and they're going to be playing chicken to get out on Benders Ferry Road. So, yeah, I'm really taken back by this project.
Please.
I really like the homes in there. I thought they were very nice and well done. And concerning HOAs, I live in an older subdivision that doesn't have an HOA. There are advantages and disadvantages to that. And I think that sometimes these HOAs almost price people out of homes in areas that they would like to be in sometimes. So from a different vantage point of being older and not needing so many amenities when you're older, maybe, the walking is perfect, the walking and the design. And I thought I looked at that and I thought, well, okay, there's walking. And you can get in a car and go somewhere else and do some other things in the parks and stuff. But that's why I was asking about the road concerning the private road versus connecting. And if it had been annexed, then it's a city street. Is that correct? And then it becomes
No, ma'am.
Or count?
The private versus public road was independent of the annexation.
Okay.
The driving force behind the recommendation for it to be a private road is that it doesn't connect to the proposed public roads
Right.
within the Traymore development.
Gotcha. But that's an expense in itself, maintaining a private road.
Correct.
And then the homeowners would have to assume that responsibility. So I don't know. There were just some aspects of HOAs that I sometimes step back and think about, how I sometimes want to be in an HOA, would like to have some things different in my neighborhood. And then I'd look around and thought, well, I'm not paying an HOA. So I'm good.
Thank you.
Provide additional information now or no?
Commissioner?
One more comment. I'm going to agree with Linda about, I live in a 25 house subdivision and we don't have amenities. I'm very happy with that because our HOA is small and makes it more private. It's very comparable to the size of this subdivision. So I think there's a balance between bigger subdivisions and amenities, but
Sure.
that's just a different perspective.
Yeah.
So
Please.
I apologize if Todd already said this. I was trying to check it before I spoke up. It's my understanding that our subregs don't allow for public streets, so they would need a variance to be able to do that. Just want to suggest that.
So they would need a variance for it to be a public street.
They would need to ask for a subdivision regulation variance for the private street.
Were we asking for a public street? I'm fine with private. I mean, we tout ourselves as one of the lowest property tax cities in the state. And, you add 20 years of property taxes for 26 lots, that's not even gonna.
Well, no, we have to give them a public street. They have to request the variance for it to become
private.
a private street.
Oh, I got you.
Correct.
Yeah, so they have to request that as a variance. We have to provide them a public street. Yeah. Very well.
Could I address some of your comments, please? Okay. The intent of the 26 unit subdivision is to offer your community a different type of subdivision. It is in demand. It's being in the market. And as you just mentioned, this commissioner, that typically these types of buyers do not want large scale public amenities within. They're looking for sort of a private subdivision, smaller, more quaint. They're providing, it's a larger lot that they're able to provide their amenities in their own backyard. And that is what they prefer. We are providing quite a bit of landscaping and the sidewalks and the trails around there and meandering the stream and that kind of thing. The intent is to create sort of an intimate subdivision. And that's why we're doing it. And the applicant would prefer a public street, to be honest. But it seemed as though, that was a contention with you all. And plus, we do not want to connect to the Traymore because that's inviting the public to come through a more private subdivision. But we are willing to make it private if necessary.
Is that a request for a variance to make it a private road?
That wasn't brought to our attention during the review with staff that we needed one, but if so, of course.
Ms. Johnson, that could be added at this point as a item on this request for variance to be a
yes, that would actually
private
be
road.
a request through Public Works because that would be a variance by them.
We can add it to our conditions.
Be
And
subject
add it,
to.
we'd add it to the variance request on this.
Yeah, the reason it's not been asked for, I think, before my time in the city, precedent's been set on private streets and private roads, but
In my tenure here, I don't know that we've had a lot of private roads. Yeah, so I can see that. Wonderful. Further questions, comments from the commission? Thank you. At this time, I want to call for citizen comments. Any citizens wishing to make comment or welcome and encouraged to do so, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Kevin Phillips, 1802 Benders Ferry Road. I just wanted to concur with my neighbor about the traffic issue, go on record for that. I'm also concerned about the drainage in the area. It does drain quite a lot there when we get heavy rains and a lot of current events going on. Just wanted to go on record for that concern.
Very well. Thank you.
And thank you guys for your comments.
Thank you. Any additional citizen comments at this time? See no citizen comments. I'd like to open the floor for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda.
Gonna make a negative recommendation.
It's a negative recommendation. With a second, that's first and a second for a negative recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? Is that an against or an abstention? I jumped quick. An abstention. So one against, one abstention. So that is a negative recommendation. Next item up on our agenda also falls underneath the recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners is to review the major PUD amendment for Beckwith Business Park located at 5158 Beckwith Road. John.
Thank you. You've seen this PUD before fairly recently, maybe 2002. This is a PUD amendment for this Beckwith Business Park. It's Golden Bear, Beckwith Road, north of I-40. What they're doing here, the changes are relatively straightforward, and I'll run through them real quick. The biggest being an addition of 3.14 acres to the north, 4591 Beckwith Road. You may remember past a couple years ago, there was a convenience store approved there. Hasn't broken ground, hasn't moved forward yet. They're adding that parcel. Golden Bear, Old Beckwith intersection, design finesse. Removal of a 75-foot PUD-AE from lot 3, an added access stub to the north from lot 4, and the main road alignment has changed due to the TVA easement. So those are the big changes to this PUD here. When it's all, or pardon me, I'll go through the waivers. There's a couple, 5 of them, and a couple of them are, I think we support all of them, but I'll run through them. Except for this first one, 2 additional signs on the west elevation of the Power Sports building for a total of 6 signs. Staff does not support. Metal awnings on all buildings in the PUD. Staff supports in lieu of fabric. Monument sign at the Flex building on parcel 3. TVA allows 6 feet height. Pardon me. They're requesting to offsite this limit on height with an additional 8 square feet for a total of 48 square feet for that sign. Pardon me. Staff supports. Nichi Ha panels in lieu of masonry for trim and accents on the Power Sports dealership. And the red, white, and blue color scheme. It's tasteful. It looks good. Staff supports it. It's the same as or similar to the previous time we've seen it too. So staff still supports that. Location of the pylon sign to be approximately 1,800 feet from the interchange. Staff does not support that. So a couple, those are obviously up to you guys to approve or not. But the PUD as amended will include 6 lots, and the uses proposed are restaurant, retail, non-medical professional services, a hotel, that gas and convenience on the additional lot they're adding that was previously approved. So far, that's going to carry forward. And that Power Sports dealership at the end of the road, that's still in the pipeline. So these are changes to the previous master development plan, and waivers are subject to your approval. We recommend forwarding this amendment to the Board of Commissioners with positive recommendation and with the conditions below, or below the recommendation there. So positive recommendation from planning. Thank you.
Shane, Public Works.
When we analyzed this PUD amendment, we basically took our old PUD comments and analyzed them one by one, primarily with the transportation. I'll defer to Todd on the highlights of that. In addition to that, we added some erosion control measures just to beef up the site. When this project was coming through, we were actually near approving it in May before the PUD questions and zoning or planning related issues came up. So we just wanted to reinforce some erosion control measures on the site, and been working very well with the engineer on this. So it's been a pretty good project for us up until the planning issues came up. But I'll defer to Todd on what we changed for a transportation perspective.
Very well. Todd, please.
So yeah, as Shane mentioned, there are a few minor changes to the offsite improvements recommended for this PUD, and that's largely being driven by the timing of the parcel to the north, where some of the offsite recommendations were going to conflict and just it. So the big thing is we removed the condition to signalize Beckwith at Golden Bear. That signal was going to share a controller cabinet with the interchange. That is a long way to share a controller cabinet. Anytime you have two signals in one cabinet, it gets messy, but you now can't coordinate your signals together, both capacity and safety wise. That it just was not going to be a good system for us. And that would have been a very short amount of time that intersection was signalized, because when Golden Bear Place comes in, they'd be removing that signal and converting that Beckwith intersection to a right in, right out, and extending that median down to the interchange. We currently don't know which PUD's going to develop first, so there is some language in there to kind of make sure whoever comes in first is getting the infrastructure in. The biggest example of that is there's an auxiliary lane coming from 40 westbound off-ramp to the existing Beckwith intersection. That is currently conditioned of Golden Bear Place, and it will be conditioned for this PUD as well. Whoever comes in first is going to have to construct that, and whoever follows up. If this PUD comes in first, that will then just be continued by the Golden Bear development. Once you're in more internal to their site, everything matches what previously been submitted.
Well, thank you. Questions, comments from the commission? Well, let's go ahead and call for citizen comments. Anyone wishing to make comment on this item is welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone, name and address for the record. Please.
I'm Gerald Vick with the WS Engineers and Surveyors, Columbia, Tennessee. I'm here representing the owners on this project. Just want to say that we've been working with the staff on a few of the things that they've asked us about. The one thing in particular that has brought us back tonight is that we had to add the adjoining property to the PUD, and as part of the agreement to purchase the land, we needed to get the road built the way that that everyone was wanting it to be done. We also were requesting a pylon sign for the entire PUD development. It is farther away from the intersection than normal, but the reason that it is farther away is because TVA line, easement lines going through there wouldn't allow it to be in the area that would meet the criteria for the location of it. So, and I'm here. I have the architects here with us and owners representatives here. If y'all have any questions for us, we'd be glad to answer.
My only one is real quick. My tenure up here makes it so that I've seen your project, so I'm familiar with it. But we have all these loaded comments on here. Let me show you what we're looking at. What do you think about your project?
I'm not sure that's all you got. Yeah. It may have been.
Is that right? So
You didn't get that?
you didn't know?
Well, I'm very sorry.
Would have been nice, no? I just got an orange box.
Is that all right?
It was in, yes, it was in your, the resubmittal packet. Didn't make it to this.
Gotcha.
Well, I do apologize.
May we, I hate to, if you've driven a minute on this, would any one of you all that's not seen this like to see that real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Could we take
Framework.
So what I want to do, if you've got a little bit of time, I would like to recommend moving this item to the back of the agenda to allow what you have there to kind of pass through.
Okay.
I, for one, can tell you I've seen you and pretty familiar with your project. I have no issues. So it's not in any kind of intent like that, but yeah, whether or not wherever the error was made, we have a map that really doesn't show us what all the great information Todd shared, Shane, Jill, John, everybody, and just give my fellow members up here the opportunity to see your project before they take action upon your project.
I do apologize.
Would that
I only
be
brought
okay?
one. I only brought one copy, but
That's okay.
pass it around.
We'll pass it through, and I'm just going to, with seeing no objection from the planning commission, amend and move your item to the back of the agenda, re-announce it, and retable this item. Would that be acceptable to you? Very well. Any? We'll bring it back up. Yeah. So while I'm doing is tabling this item, we'll bring it back to the back of the agenda. Any objection to me doing so? Wonderful. So I am moving for the record. I'm moving item 11C to the back of our agenda, which will be heard prior to item 12. So we will move on with our agenda tonight. Our next item up on the agenda will be a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is item 11D. It is to review the annexation and plan of services for Silver Springs phases 8 through 13, located at 9621 Lebanon Road. John.
Just the annexation. Comments are it's in the growth boundary. Staff supports the annexation. Well, that would be all I have on the annexation. Thank you.
Very well. Shane, anything
Comment
on this
annex-
portion?
No comment on annexation.
Very well. So, questions or comments from the commission in regards to this item on our agenda? We are hearing the review and annexation and plan of services for the Silver Springs phases 8 through 13 at 9621 Lebanon Road. I guess let's go ahead and call for representation to this project. Name and address for the record.
Mike Rye with Los Design, representing Universal Builders, 2809 Foster Avenue, Nashville. Be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Mike, I got one real quick. Do you happen to have a copy with you of the existing Silver Springs?
I do not.
You do not?
I can get you one, but I don't.
The only
Well,
thing-
I need to qualify that because we didn't design the original sections of Silver Springs. I do think we have them,
Okay.
but I'll have to dig for them a little.
That's what I was just kind of trying to see how they look next to each other. Should action proceed in regards to those?
Sorry, I don't have them with me.
Perfect. Questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, let's call for citizen comments in regards to this item on the agenda. Any citizens wishing to make comment are welcome, encouraged to do so. Come to the microphone and name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we'll be closing our planning commission meeting in order to open a public hearing. The public hearing is in regards to item 11D, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, is to review the annexation and plan of services for Silver Springs phases 8 through 13, located at 9621 Lebanon Road. Anyone wishing to make comment during the public hearing is welcome and encouraged to do so. Come to the microphone and name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we will close our public hearing, reopen our planning commission meeting, and at which time I am looking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. I will follow suit and I will make a motion for a positive recommendation, subject to the approval of the PUD amendment for Silver Springs phases 8 through 13.
Second.
It's a motion and a second for a positive recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? It is a positive recommendation. Right. Next item up on our agenda is item 11E. It is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners to review the PUD amendment for Silver Springs phases 8 through 13 located at 9621 Lebanon Road. John.
Thank you. Summarize the changes here. We're going to add 21, these additional phases to the Silver Springs PUD add about 21 acres, a little over 21 acres. And it's an additional 96 lots. The city's land use plan for this has already been amended since they need a land use plan amendment. That was already approved via the Board of Commissioners. The base zoning they're asking for is RS20 rather than the RS15 that's in the rest of the PUD because this phase is less dense. It doesn't need the RS15. It doesn't need the high density residential. Some of the waivers, I'll go through those real quick, whether or not we support them. To build a sidewalk from the end of lot 85 to Mill Cove, as no sidewalk connection exists on this side of Mill Cove, staff does not support. To have 20 lots on the cul-de-sac for Road B, staff does support. Have one access point for the 103 lots because there's 7 already on Mill Cove, the 96 additional, and then the 7 existing. Staff supports. Length of Road B cul-de-sac to be 750 feet in lieu of 700 feet. Staff supports. And to disturb steep slopes, staff does support that. A lot of those are common with these types of subdivisions. These newer phases, like I mentioned, it's less dense. The lots are larger. Overall, and the product that they intend to build is going to match the existing Silver Springs. This is a overall improvement versus what the rest of the PUD is. It's less dense, more open space. So staff does support a positive recommendation to the BOC for this amendment to Silver Springs. And that's all for me.
Shane, anything?
Staff supports variance number 5 in a cut condition only. And as we talked about the other PUD, no existing steep slopes in the building envelope, as well as no on-site grinder systems. They'll be tying into the existing Silver Spring sewer system, so that won't be an issue. And I'm going to defer to Todd on the rest of the transportation comments.
Yeah, so the staff supports their cul-de-sac variances. Actually, first I want to point out, per our development code, if you exceed 100 lots on one street, you are required to perform a traffic analysis. The development team did that, and their traffic analysis supported that reasonable access could be provided to all of the homes within these phases of Silver Springs. So no secondary access is required if that's supported by the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners. And they have requested cul-de-sac variances both to exceed unit and to exceed length. Both of those are very common. However, I actually think we need to tweak the phrasing of those variances slightly because I believe that's going to apply at the point where they no longer have an outlet. And it just specifies Road B right now. Those variances would likely have to apply to the entire development.
Okay.
They're still supported, though. It's just logistics of it.
Okay.
Anywhere?
Not until you get into the previous phases of Silver Springs, in which case you have access to either Bender's Ferry or to Karen Drive. So
Would they have access to Karen Drive?
Yes, yes,
They
but
would.
they are required to connect to what I think it's Mill Cove Road, but they all filter down to the same road to get to the place where they have a choice of outlet from the overall development. And they submitted to their traffic analysis that showed they could safely distribute and exit the development on both those roads.
Okay, I have another question. When they purchased this property, there was an access to Lebanon Road to this property. Can they use that access?
They can. I would not support that. We really need to try to the greatest extent possible, limit access to arterials. That's part of the reason there's congestion on Lebanon Road. And I believe our transportation plan calls for access management on Lebanon Road, which additional access would not be in support of that.
Okay.
Further questions, comments?
Got one
Please.
for Todd. So Todd, you said when they conducted their study, they were confident that there was only one entrance and exit needed for that second part. What's your thoughts there? Are you in agreement that one is good?
I reviewed that study. It was very by the book. They hired Birch Engineering, which is a firm I hold in very high regard. I agree with their findings. Quite frankly, the reason they had to submit it is because the units they're adding didn't put them over the threshold. It's the approved units on this road that put them over the threshold. So they're barely over that 100 limit, as well as that Karen Drive internal to Silver Springs is not a major thoroughfare. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Sign somewhere saying this is not a thoroughfare or?
Yes, in the conditions, they will have to put a no outlet sign on, again, I think it's Mill Cove.
Is that connected? Is that the same thing as Karen Drive, near Karen Drive?
Yeah, so that, this is what's already approved.
Right.
There will be a sign somewhere here-ish to tell vehicles turning into the road that accesses these phases of the development that there's no outlet.
Mhm. But they can still get out by Karen Drive.
Yeah, they would have to loop, if
They
you
would have to
turn
loop
into these
around.
new phases, you just have to loop around and go back out the way you came.
Okay.
It's essentially all just one very large cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Please,
One more
Commissioner
question.
George, yes.
And I know I'm putting our fire marshal on the spot here, but and I don't know if you can look at Shane or Todd's plans. Do you have any concerns if you're, let's say, lot 43? Do you have any concerns effectively getting to lot 43 with no access on that backside? Like I said, I know I'm putting us.
So I know what the city code states that I think it's anything over 100 homes have to have 2 exits. The International Fire Code actually states any homes that are over 30 is required to have 2 exits unless all homes are sprinklered. So that's kind of where I have concern, just because one entrance, one exit is, to me as a firefighter, if a crash happens at that main entrance and it's
Everybody's
blocked,
stuck, yeah.
and Grandma Betty has a cardiac arrest, we don't have access to get in there. And then also if there's an emergency, we have to mass evacuate.
Bottleneck everybody.
But the fire code doesn't look at that. The fire code just looks at fire protection only, and that's why they say having a home sprinkled, then you can go over that threshold of 30.
Okay, thank you. This is Karen.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up for citizen comments. Any citizens wishing to make comment, welcome, encouraged to do so. And the microphone, name and address for the record.
Thank you, everybody. Name's Ryan Carr. I live at 320 Midtown Trail here in Mount Juliet. I actually live in the Silver Spring subdivision. I've lived in the Silver Spring subdivision since 2008. I was one of the first ones that come in there. The problem is that I have, and I hope you put this in a negative recommendation, is the builder, he just keeps building on. He's never going to stop building these phases. As most of you know, I know probably a lot of you have not been on the commission here for very long, but this original plan was, I think approved back in 2003, right? So we're going on 21 years that this builder has been building and working on this, and now he's asking to add 6 more phases on. I mean, he's barely done through phase 5. He's working on phase 6. So it's been, 21 years that he's, getting phase 5 done. When I originally moved in here, moved into the subdivision, I was told there was going to be 4 to 5 phases was all it's going to be. Now, as me as a homeowner, I understood that it was going to take many years. The problem is being homeowner association, which I know some of you have mentioned as well. The builder still controls our homeowners association. He will control it until every home in that subdivision is sold. So he's already controlled it for 16 years, and now he's going to control it for another 10 years until he finally builds out, or however long it's going to take him to build this out. That's a dictatorship, right? I mean, we as homeowners, 400-500 residents in this association, we have no control there. We can't control anything. He raises the rates. He does whatever he wants. When I originally moved in there, it was going to be one of these subdivisions that did not have amenities. Me and my wife, we were good with that. There's plenty of other opportunities. There's lakes, Nashville Shores, Jimmy Floyd. We had no problem with living in there because we knew if there's no amenities, the homeowner association fees would be low. We moved in there, it's $50 a quarter. He come in, the builder kept building, realized he couldn't keep up with the other subdivisions in here selling homes. So he decided he wanted to put a pool in. He wanted to put a playground. He wanted to put these amenities in. We as homeowners, we had no say over this. We'd lived there for 5 years. He come in and said, I need to build more. I'm going to put in these amenities. I'm paying $200 a quarter now. It quadrupled my homeowners association fees. I had no say in any of that. He's going to continue on doing whatever he wants to do. That's my gripe about the homeowner association part. But this is going to be 10 more years or however more long, construction trucks coming through our neighborhood. Dump trucks, cement mixers, low boys with their excavators, bulldozers, the blasting going on. 16 years of blasting already. We're going to have 10 plus more years of blasting. The homeowners, we're tight. It's nonstop, always going on. The construction workers coming in there, for the most part, trash being left around, so many construction workers. I live where I'm at, even towards the front of the subdivision. We get soil erosions that come down the storm drains. It comes out. I got a cul-de-sac or a culvert that comes right out the end of my backyard before it hits the retention pond. I've had to dig out soil out of that culvert so many times because it piles up right there. And if it piles up, it's just backing water up. It's mosquitoes being, in the standing water, rodents, wildlife, they're attracted to my backyard. I've constantly had to pick up trash and all that stuff, do that. Adding 96 more homes in here, what's that do? 2 to 3 more cars per home. That's another 200 to 300 more cars coming through this neighborhood. And you're talking about just one roadway to get in and out of that part. Karen Drive, the main part of Silver Springs, that's another 200 to 300 more cars that's going to be coming out Karen Drive. I know everyone's talking, it's connecting to the county part of Karen Drive. No one's going to drive that way. If you look on the map, you're coming into town, you're coming to Publix, you're coming to McDonald's, you're going to the school. No one's going to go all the way back around the old part of Karen Drive to get on Lebanon Road. They're coming right out the front of our subdivision to get to Bender's Ferry, to get to Lebanon Road. We got enough subdivisions going on Bender's Ferry. I mean, we've talked about several of these. It's just more cars we're going to build up, no matter how much wide, you widen the road, put another turning lane. It doesn't matter. I mean, we have cars in the morning from the schools that's backed up past our subdivision already in the mornings. And, we're past Joy Church. I mean, we're several hundred feet from Lebanon Road. In the mornings, I'm pulling out of subdivision. I got to wait for cars to clear because they're backed up all that way. So it's just more cars. Like I said, but it's the builder is going to, he's never going to stop building because as the board, the committees, they keep allowing him to just continue to build. I know you guys aren't elected, right? You're appointed. I know the board of commissions, elected and all that stuff, and you guys are appointed for them. But as you mentioned, Chairman Winchester, you're of us for us, right? You're here kind of for us. Adding these 96 homes does not benefit the residents of Silver Springs right now. It is no benefit. It will impact us. It will be more homes in there. It will be more people, more cars. This does not benefit us. To be honest with you, 96 homes is not going to benefit Mount Juliet. The 30,000, 40,000 people that are here, 96 homes is not going to benefit that. It will be an impact to the 500 residents that we currently are. 96 more homes, that's more residents. We have a pool and a playground. It's not going to support another 200 people. It's not going to support more people. The pool is not that large. So as we mentioned, it's got amenities. If it's overcrowded, which you go on a summer hot day on the weekends, it's already pretty full. We're going to add more. Like I said, he's still got 2 phases left to do still. So he is still building out several more homes on top of this 96.
If you could help us just summarize real quick so we can wrap
Okay,
up,
I'm sorry. One more thing. You mentioned the mail kiosk. They're an eyesore. I want to understand why these new homes are so different than ours. Everyone's talking about, it'll be the same. The lots are bigger, which means he's going to build bigger homes, bigger than ours. Why don't they have mailboxes in front of their homes? Why is there going to be this nasty mail kiosk in front of our amenity center as opposed to we have mailboxes in front of our homes? So that's an eyesore. It shouldn't. I highly recommend you vote in a negative to this. And I will be at the Board of Commissions meeting on this as well. So I'm hoping to bring more on that. But I hope you recommend it as a negative recommendation. This is not a benefit to us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The only one I can comment on is that the post office, that's not a city or it's a postal regulation, nationwide. Any new subdivisions or anything get created have to have kiosks and no longer individual mailboxes.
When did that go into effect? I'm not. A couple of years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. It's been about 2 years probably that it's started kind of West Coast and it meandered its way East Coast now. And so all new subdivisions, no longer any mailboxes.
So the homes are still being built in the current PUD or the current plan.
Their grandfather.
Their grandfather.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I know it's interesting. It feels weird not to have a mailbox.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't understand why we can't put it in front of theirs.
Well, thank you. Please.
Chairman Winchester, members of the board, my name is Tom White. I'm the attorney for the applicant here, 36 Old Club Court in Nashville. I'll comment at the front end that every time this issue has come before this board, there's always been someone who has driven through the development and been so complimentary about the quality of Silverstone. That's been consistent throughout. And that's exactly what we're talking about here in the PUD expansion. They're larger areas, they're larger houses. And it's kind of hard to be critical of the builder developer. He's a local person who's been out there for 20 years doing really quality work. We see a lot of times in Middle Tennessee builder developers coming in, they're going back to Texas, they start something, they're gone. This is somebody local who's seen this project through repeatedly. And I've never heard anything but accolades from this board and actually the BOC about the quality of homes here. I don't think it's a fair thing for my client to be criticized that he listened to a number of the residents there and basically put in amenities. That was something he didn't do because he wanted to spend the money. It's because there was a need for it. I heard this gentleman say tonight he didn't like the amenities there, but at the end of the day, I've heard this board on a number of occasions talk about you should have certain amenities there, and that's what the builder developer did. So I respectfully ask this matter be approved, sent to the BOC. But again, I think the track record of this developer is very well known to everybody in the city, and the quality that he's done will be consistent in the new PUD proposal. So we appreciate your courtesies. Ask for a positive recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate your public service.
Yes, sir. Any additional citizen comments at this time? Seeing no additional citizen comments, Like to ask for a motion in regards or a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda. Yes, please. Absolutely.
Todd, when is that secondary access to the county side of Karen Drive supposed to be completed?
It's under construction at the moment. I don't know exactly when it's
So
anticipated
before
to be
this
finished.
development part or this phase would even start to begin with?
Yes.
I believe, I think that's phase 6. That will be coming before you, the final plat will be coming before you guys next month, I believe. It's already been paved.
This section can't get access at all until that section is finished.
That this is the only access to the construction area is by the main entrance? That's a
Yes.
lot of construction stuff going through. And then Larry mentioned the access to Lebanon Road, even though it's not the ideal thing. Is there a possibility that could be used for construction? I have no idea where that is. I'm just opening that up. I don't know where the road is. I don't see it.
Honestly, I'm not even sure it's wide enough.
Mm.
It is the tiniest little pole of a flag lot.
And who owns that? Is that the developer or
Yes, it would be this landowner.
the landowner?
I can't imagine.
Landowner that sold- that sold this
Lebanon Road there.
No.
Well, I can't
As
either,
bad as
but
it is.
then think about it going through the neighborhood as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that driveway
No,
is
either way.
tucked in between two existing driveways.
Storage buildings.
Yes, the
Where
storage
do you see
building.
that on here? Is it on here?
No, it's not on there,
Okay.
but it's between two storage buildings. I can tell you where it is. You know where the CTC radio station
Good.
is on that?
Very well.
Sorta, yeah,
Right up to the box there.
yeah.
I am looking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda.
Just gonna be I'm gonna move for a negative recommendation.
It's a motion for a negative recommendation. It's a motion and a second for a negative recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? Is a negative recommendation. Next item up on our agenda will be item 11C, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Review the major PUD amendment for Beckwith Business Park located at 5158 Beckwith Road. I feel confident that staff's comments from planning are still good. Public Works comments are still good. Very well. And the commission has had a opportunity of which to review this plan. Does that bring about any questions, comments, discussion from the commission? Please.
Is the parcel that we're adding to this PUD, is it the plans for it staying the same? Because I know we haven't seen any movement on that. That
It's
was,
got
if
an
I
appro-
remember, it was like convenience gas station with office
Yes,
on top.
correct, and the
Which was a
parking
little
was
different
behind,
than what
yeah.
we've seen.
Yes, it was. That plan's good for 5 years.
Okay.
So obviously they wouldn't be obligated to build
Right,
that.
right.
They could submit another site plan to
Okay.
modify
I was just
it.
curious if
But yeah.
we're going to see any changes or.
No.
Okay.
They're very small changes about where that southern driveway is going to be, just based on how this PUD's going to align that new road.
I just remember that was a big deal, trying to that
should.
drive and like how I remember Luke bringing up about how cars and trucks or big trucks would turn into that.
If anything, this would make that, it would improve that access to that from what was originally, I would imagine.
Yeah, you're getting more separation
Okay.
from that more internal intersection, which is
Good.
good.
I guess to piggyback on that too, another minor change would be because it used to be residential zoning next to that gas convenience store.
Right.
They had buffers, but
Mhm.
now it's all going to be CI based zoning, so that'll go away. There's no more residential next to it, so it's
Good.
unnecessary. So just minor things like that.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, any further questions or comments?
Light earlier, and could you explain that? Who was explaining the red light?
And Todd?
Is there going to be one there at that entrance, Beckwith area, or you're saying not?
There will not. And the reason for that is, first of all, if Golden Bear Place comes in first, there's not even an intersection there really. It's going to be a right in, right out. And they'll have to go up to a new road that will then have a signal. If this development comes in first, in order to build that connection, we're ripping up the road, having significant, work zones to build a temporary signal that's not going to operate particularly smoothly along the corridor, and then ripping it out very shortly after. That's a lot of construction on Golden Bear and a lot of hassle for a really iffy signal to begin with.
So it's a right in, right out, and then you go down and turn around if you're wanting to get back on the interstate.
So big picture here, you're going to be able to drive up Beckwith Road, and there's going to be a new road that you can come down. It's going to be closer to Legacy Point. That is also a temporary signal, admittedly, based on the conditions of their PUD. The ultimate goal is to get people to that Legacy Point signal. That's where we want most of the traffic that's coming on the northeast side of Golden Bear to leave from. We're kind of just in an issue with phasing when all of these lots are coming in. It would have been much more convenient, admittedly, if we started from the lot opposite that Legacy signal and worked our way down. It's not how they came in. So there's going to be queuing on Beckwith Road. I'm not going to lie to you guys about that. But that is going to be a temporary situation, and people will still have the opportunity to go right, head north, and then use either Legacy Point to Rutland to get back if they need to go to the interstate, or if they're headed into town, take Division. But taking a left out of this development is going to be challenging.
Unsafe.
During peak hours. It's going to be pretty similar to trying to take a left onto Mount Juliet Road, North Mount Juliet Road, I should say.
Yeah.
Never try to take a left onto South Mount Juliet
Is there
Road.
a U-turn option down there at Legacy Point?
It would be, your U-turn option would be to turn left into Legacy Point, and then
Go
at
down there
the
and turn around.
intersection of Legacy and Rutland, turn left onto Rutland, which will take you down to, actually, it's essentially this same intersection just across the street, which is already a right in, right out. It'd be a big loop. That's what I would recommend people do. People are going to make that left until we get that full median in.
But we don't know which of these parcels are going to develop first, right? Legacy or this one?
Right now, we're reviewing the roadway plans for Golden Bear Place, and they're looking to get going.
But they're also mid-PUD amendment
Yeah.
at the same time.
Correct.
So forecasting when that road comes in is extremely difficult.
Who's on first?
What?
Get it?
Very well. Any further questions, comments? Good. Perfect. This time we'll call for citizen comments. Anyone wishing to make comments, welcome, encouraged to do so. Come to the microphone, name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time. Looking for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda.
Motion for a positive recommendation.
It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a positive recommendation. Before we adjourn or request adjournment here just a moment, I meant to make mention of this at the beginning of the meeting and didn't. So I want to make quick mention. I had a great opportunity to meet with staff, Todd, John, Jill, last week. Just some concerns that I had that came out of our September Planning Commission meeting, and particularly that Tomlinson Point deal over there, and particularly the fact that we had several people come up here and say that you had a driveway shut off and no notification. Says, well, sorry, you're trapped. Good luck to you. Get heading out. That right there, notification of work, things being done in the city as far as some of our cuts permitting out there. Spoke to some experience that I've got in other municipalities as well, to see if we can't prevent minor things like that. I bring that up to the context. Also covered some road concerns that I had with staff at the time and made me feel much better about them. But should you have, as a member of our planning commission, should you have concerns with anything, you have the ability to reach out to staff as well. You have the ability to bring discussion forth and make recommendations back to the Board of Commissioners if you find things aren't working. Our subdivision regulations are ours in place and ours in place for us to enforce as a planning commission, much similar to the officers present. Codification of laws is their requirement to enforce as they go on their active duty. So ours is the subdivision regulations as set. A lot of them we may not like. And if we don't like, we need to seek change. Some things work, some things don't. One of the things that we did discuss during that, I believe that it's been 7 or 8 years, maybe longer. Todd, we looked at it, or Jill, our transportation plan for the city of Mount Juliet. I think it last was amended, reviewed by a committee 8 years ago, maybe longer. It may even be longer than 8 years ago. As you know, Mount Juliet has changed a bunch in 8 years. Things such as Bender's Ferry. We had 2 major projects come before this body tonight at Bender's Ferry. We've had some things come through that we thought were going to create connectors within our city that have not come to fruition. And there are items in place that we have approved that prevent some of our transportation plan from coming to fruition. So maybe things such as our transportation plan, which was done through a committee, took about 6-7 months last time I was part of that. It was an open committee made up of staff, made up of planning commission, all public, welcome, open, and encouraged to be a part of things like that. But I say that to the context that it might be something that we should recommend revisiting, opening. I don't know that our land use plan necessarily warrants, but transportation plan, especially that we have last time we did not have a traffic engineer on our city staff as well. And the ability to have a traffic engineer to be able to help and interpret what works, what doesn't, what we see can be good things. So should you have concerns or comments, I would encourage you to bring them to city staff, see whether or not it's merited, warranted, and if we've got some things that we need to adjust or amend. No time like now time to make sure that we're heading forward in the right way in everything that we do. So just wanted to bring that up. With that being said, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Against, abstentions. We are adjourned.